Food seems simple on the surface. You go to a store, pick what you need, and that's it. But behind every meal is a long chain of processes: farming, processing, packaging, transportation, and each step carries an environmental cost that most people never see. That's where the real impact lies. Start with agriculture. Producing food requires land, water, and energy, but not all foods are equal in how much they consume. For example, raising livestock, especially cattle, requires significantly more resources than growing crops. Cows need large areas of land for grazing or growing feed. They also produce methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide in the short term. So when demand for beef increases, the environmental impact grows disproportionately. Now compare that to plant-based foods like grains, vegetables, or legumes. These typically require less land and produce fewer emissions per calorie. That doesn't mean they're impact-free, but the scale is different. Next is deforestation. To meet global food demand, forests are often cleared to create farmland. This is especially common in regions where crops like soy and palm oil are grown, or where land is converted into cattle pasture. When forests are removed, it's not just trees that are lost. Entire ecosystems disappear. Carbon stored in trees is released into the atmosphere, and biodiversity declines. Water use is another major factor. Agriculture accounts for a large portion of global freshwater consumption. Some crops require massive amounts of water, especially when grown in dry regions. Overuse of water can deplete rivers, lakes, and underground reserves. In extreme cases, it leads to long-term water scarcity. Then there's pollution. Farming often relies on fertilizers and pesticides. These chemicals don't just stay on the fields, they can run off into nearby rivers and lakes. This runoff can cause algae blooms, reduce oxygen levels in water, and harm aquatic life. It also affects water quality for human use. Processing and packaging add another layer. Once food is harvested, it's often processed, packaged, and preserved. This requires energy and materials, especially plastics. Single-use packaging is a major contributor to waste. Even if food itself is consumed, the packaging often ends up in landfills or the environment. Transportation is part of the story too, but not always in the way people expect. Food miles, the distance food travels, do matter, but they're often a smaller part of total emissions compared to production. For example, producing meat locally can still have a higher environmental cost than importing plant-based foods from far away. So the type of food matters more than the distance it travels. Another hidden cost is food waste. A significant portion of food produced globally is never eaten. It's lost during production, transport, or thrown away by consumers. When food is wasted, all the resources used to produce it are wasted too: land, water, energy. And if that waste ends up in landfills, it can produce methane as it decomposes, adding to greenhouse gas emissions. Now consider something less obvious: diet patterns. As incomes rise in many parts of the world, diets tend to shift toward more meat, dairy, and processed foods. These diets generally have a higher environmental footprint. This creates a global trend where food-related environmental impact increases even if population growth slows. So what does this all mean? It means the environmental cost of food isn't just about what's on your plate, it's about everything that happened before it got there. And most of those impacts are invisible to the average consumer. So what can actually reduce this impact? First, reducing food waste is one of the simplest and most effective steps. Buying only what you need and using what you buy can significantly cut down unnecessary resource use. Second, adjusting diet choices, even slightly, can make a difference. Reducing high-impact foods like beef and increasing plant-based options can lower environmental pressure. This doesn't require extreme changes. Even small shifts at scale can have a large impact. Third, supporting more sustainable production systems helps. This includes farming practices that use fewer chemicals, conserve water, and protect soil health. Finally, better systems at the industry level, more efficient supply chains, improved packaging, and waste reduction are essential, because while individual choices matter, large-scale change depends on how the entire food system operates. In the end, food isn't just about nutrition or taste. It's connected to land, water, climate, and ecosystems around the world. And understanding that connection is the first step towards making choices that are not only practical, but also sustainable.